Hello everyone, welcome back to Lab4crypto. The crypto market is in an emotional roller coaster right now. So I was thinking what is the best video to record today to give you as much value as I can. So I decided to see some charts with you to see if actually the 4-year cycle is dead, if actually it's going to be extended in 2026, what I think is going to happen for people that they care. But of course, we're going to check the data first to see what the charts can tell us, to see if the recent dump in the crypto and in Bitcoin in general was something that is worrisome, if the macro is telling us something that we need to be aware of, and hopefully through the end of this video you will get a better understanding why this is happening and if Bitcoin bottom is closing or not. So first, let's see the current price of Bitcoin. We are sitting at 102.8K. We are sitting below the bull market support band, but the good thing is that we are close and above, let's say, the 50-week moving average. The 50-week moving average, it was something that halted as a support through all of this cycle. So Bitcoin revisited the 50-week moving average 1, 2, 3 times and bounced back. So that is why you see many people say that if Bitcoin drops below the 50-week moving average, which now is at 103, they are going to exit the market. And actually, I am I am in the camp which, if Bitcoin drops below the bull market support, the 50-week moving average, and stay below 100K as well for more than a week, I'm going to exit the market, let it a bit settle, and then rejoin. But for now, everything is okay. So it's best for us to understand if we're going to see a bounce like this or no. So let's dive in to some more charts. First, it's good for us to understand if the recent drop that we had recently, which basically was at around 20%, let's say was 20.78%, only occur in Bitcoin, in the crypto market, or it just happened to other asset classes as well. You will see that also S&P 500 dropped 4.17%. It was, the trigger was basically the start again on the trading wars between China and US, and it was the catalyst to have this drop. If you go to gold, you will see that gold also dropped around 12%. Let's say, if I didn't take it exactly from the top. Yeah, 11.26%. And the same thing you will see is on Nasdaq and so on. The difference is now that the other asset classes are starting to recover, but Bitcoin still is not recovering, as you will see. If we go and see the daily chart, basically we had the drop, but now we are basically consolidating. So it's good for us to understand where we are in the cycle. Based on the 4-year cycle, usually we get the top in Q4 of 2020, of the post-halving year. So now it's Q4 2025. We have some forces exerting selling pressure to to Bitcoin, basically, because do not forget that your favorite altcoin, it's going to move based on what Bitcoin is going to do. You will never see an altcoin season, let's say, if Bitcoin is not above all-time highs. So it's good for you to understand, even if you are not a holder of BTC, to understand where Bitcoin is now, because you are heavy correlated with Bitcoin. So as I said, Bitcoin now is at the 50-week moving average. which historically was the support for Bitcoin. We had a top which was on the 6th of October for Bitcoin, which lies in Q4 of 2025. And now people that are more than one cycle in the crypto market, they are in a deja vu, which basically think that they're gonna miss the top. So are starting to exit the market as we are in Q4 of 2025. They don't want to see an 80% drop, which is what they saw in the previous cycle. Imagine that Bitcoin dropped 77.5% when we entered the bear market. So now that we are just 20%, let's say, from all-time high, and we are in Q4, they don't want to risk it. And I completely understand their logic. Of course, we also have selling pressure from whales, which now that the demand is not that big from ETFs on Bitcoin, and as a lot of people as well are feel underwhelmed based on the performance of Bitcoin. When whales are exerting selling pressure and the demand is not high, you can feel it more on the price, of course. You can see, for example, in the past week, if we have a look, yeah, that was something that I wanted to tell you. I'll go to a post that I made about whales, which we have also some fear based on that on the White House saying that the October jobs and inflation data may not be released due to the shutdown of the government. So that uncertainty again is a bit difficult for the market. But if you go and check, I posted it I think recently. Yeah. So you see, for example, whales, which they have 1.12 billion worth of Bitcoin, exceeding Bitcoin as we are above 100K, because there are people that they are holding Bitcoin for 10, 15 years, and it's their time to exit the market. And they are doing basically that slowly over the year. But when you do that in a period where there is fear in the market and there is not demand to buy it back, that it's felt more. So for example, you will see that one whale, let's say, sold 3.61.8 million, assuming that the move means that it's going to be for selling when we check the move from on-chain from the wallet to Kraken. And all the ETFs yesterday, they did close to 500 million. So all of the ETFs together basically are the same with one guy. Therefore, definitely, when we have red outflows on the ETFs and we do not have a consistent inflow and that is well selling, that it will be reflected on the price. For me though, if you think that now we have the selling pressure from whales, and it's not only from whales, I wanted to show you something else as well. If we check the hodl waves, you will see that wallets which they had Bitcoin between 6 months to 1 year, you will see that they are moving it. So when you usually move the asset is to sell it or to exchange it for something. Therefore, that people, which was from last year when they acquired Bitcoin, when the ETFs were launched, they are now sitting in unrealized, let's say, profits close to 50%, which for them, it's amazing to have in a year 50% return. Therefore, they are realizing profits and usually are coming from people which are not familiar with the crypto market, which you can have this volatile moves to the upside and usually are in a really small window. Do not forget that Bitcoin makes most of its gains in a 10 days window. Therefore, for them, they want to take their profit, and you'll see they are moving their BTC. So the BTC, which was not moved for between 6 months to 1 year, was 15.8, and now it's at 11.8. So it's clear that some of them are realizing their gains. We have the whales as well getting their long-awaited profits, because many of them, do not forget, they got BTC when nobody was believing on them, when governments were against it, when COVID crash happened, so many things. Therefore, I don't blame them that they are taking their profits, but for us now is to evaluate what's going to happen in the future. For me, it's really encouraging that Bitcoin withstand all of this selling pressure and still it's above 100K. And for me, I'm willing to ride Bitcoin price action, and actually I'm going to accumulate slowly in between 100 to 103K as, let's say, 50-week moving average holds, and we move through 2025 and especially start to move a bit higher in December, close to all-time highs. That means that also the holders from previous cycles were starting to feel FOMO, were starting to see, okay, maybe the 4-year cycle is not going to stand. Therefore, with the macro events happening, with the end of quantitative tightening, with the rate cuts, we can see an extended cycle between Q1 and Q2 of 2026, which that will lead, of course, to BTC moving to much higher prices and then whales jumping in again. We're already starting to see something like that, and I was checking that before I make the video. You will see that the really huge whales, which they have between 10K to 100K BTC, they are starting to heavily exit the market between July 13th, 2025. And also, if you move to the recent, let's move to the recent drop, which was on the 6th of October, which we had the all-time high, and then we had the drop. You'll see that they also exited. So the wallets that had this much amount of BTC dropped from 80 to 79, which it's only one guy, but it has huge amounts of BTC. And then we immediately started to see that the number of wallets is starting to increase. So also whales are accumulating, but definitely we need more demand to start moving the prices higher. So from 79 wallets, now we are close to 85. So that is good news in my opinion. And what I want also to see is Bitcoin dolphins, which they have between 100 to 1K BTC, which they were accumulating since 2024. We saw them roll over a little bit after the after October 26, 27, when the fear started to peak more, and we had a bigger drop between November 6 to November 7. Now we're starting to see a plateau and a bit now going down. So when I see this starting to going up as well, that means they're absorbing the selling pressure more. So we have more accumulators than sellers, which that is important. And we have the rate cuts, which are expected on 12th of December, 10th of December, which the probability of rate cuts now is 48.1 for 25 basis points and 51.9 for 50 basis points. So for hold, we don't have any, which that it's a good sign. The problem now with the shutdown of the US government, we're starting to see again fights between the two parties, which they are saying that because the data were not released, the Fed were not going to be able to make a decision on rate cuts. But of course, we have other tools to see that inflation is okay. I don't see any reason why inflation should spike now, personally. And the labor market, of course, is weakening because we are seeing the AI taking jobs from people, which is something that was expected. But the productivity of companies is increasing, so the profits are increasing, and they are reducing their labor. That is something that is very in interest of the Fed to monitor the situation, and their way to help for more people to be hired is to reduce interest rates, so borrowing will be easier from companies and be able to expand more aggressively and hire people, hopefully. And as a result, now the next 2 months I think are really important, because first, if Bitcoin lose the 50-week moving average, I think a lot of people are going to exit the market, and therefore we can have an extended 2 or 3 months of a drop, which it's going to be decisive if we're going to see a continued bear market, which usually lasts for a year. Therefore, you should expect it by the end of 2026, or just a short-lived drop, which then we're going to continue to going up. From what I'm seeing now, I think it's going to be a short-lived, but we need to have some price levels which we can change our opinion. Because for people that accumulate BTC at lower prices between 15 and 50K, let's say, they are going to realize their 2x gain, let's say, and there's no need for them to have extra risk and continue believing that the drop is going to be short-lived and lose their gains. So that is why the next 2 months are important, for the reason that I said. And the second, if we stay above the 50-week moving average, I think all the people that exited the market because they thought that the 4-year cycle is going to stand, they're going to start getting back into the market. Therefore, it's crucial for you to monitor the situation very, very closely for the next 2 months. And something else that I wanted to bring to your attention is the death cross. The death cross is when the 50-week SMA crosses the 200 days SMA. So what happens here is that the two on the 3 previous times that this happened, it signal local bottoms. So now these two are closing. So I expect that to happen in the next 3 or 4 days. Therefore, we can have a short-lived dump and then move to higher prices if it's going to follow the same scenario as the previous times. You'll see that on the April 7, we have something similar. Bitcoin price dropped from 79.4 to 76.3, so we had a 3K drop. And then we had, basically we never looked back since then. So Bitcoin dropped from, as I said, from 79.4 to 76, and then moved to new all-time highs. The same thing happened in 2023, which Bitcoin consolidated, had a smaller drop of from 25.8 to 25.1, so really small drop, and then moved all the way up to 46K. And the same thing occurred in 2024, which we had again the drop. The price consolidated for, let's say, from August 2024 until October. So it was like 1-2 months of consolidation, of sideways movement, and then Bitcoin moved to higher prices. Of course, if you look back, you will find situation that again the same thing happened with the death cross. For example, in January 2021, which dropped for, let's say, a month and then moved to new all-time highs in November. But you can see also situation which not the same thing happen. So it's not something that I am looking closely. Of course, people that doing TA, technical analysis, is something that they observe, and sometimes because they are doing their trades with this in mind, you can see short-term moves which align with the death cross. That was in May 2020, which again, Bitcoin dropped from 6.5 to 5.9, and then move to new all-time highs basically. Therefore, I wanted to give to put that in your mind for the next 2 or 3 days, which I expect the death cross to happen. So maybe in the weekend, which also the ETFs are not trading on weekends, we can see it dropped again to 100K and then start to move higher as we go into December. Ideally for me, I don't want to go close to 100K because it's a psychological level for traders. So I prefer, if we are going to have a drop on the death cross, to be close to the 101K and then start to move higher. But market is going to do what it's going to do. And for us, it's important to see the weekly close on Sunday. To sum up, there are two camps now which are fighting each other. We're seeing people that are exiting the market because they think the 4-year cycle is going to stand and therefore it's time to exit, and we have entered the bear market. And people that are more focused on macro, they saw that the drop on BTC was correlated with S&P 500, with gold, and therefore with the injection of new liquidity from the Fed in 2026, we can run at least 1 or 2 quarters in 2026. And as I said, I'm leaning to this scenario personally. And to be honest, I would love this to happen because that means it will remove from people's mind the 4-year cycle narrative that Bitcoin has to do the same thing over and over again. Because as Bitcoin becomes more institutionalized, I think this is not going to be the case. But as a famous saying is that if something is working, do not change it. So because it's not broken, stick with it. And I completely understand that. That is why I have the 100K as my line in the sand, which also I'm going to exit the market and take profits heavily. And of course, my moves is something that I share in our premium Telegram channel, which people can check what I'm doing there. And let's have a quick crypto market overview, and then I will end the video. So for now, Bitcoin, this is the closing price from last night. So Bitcoin is still above it was close to its FOMO level, which is 104. The close price was at 101.6, so it's not far away, but it's good to move above it. As I said, we are below the bull market support band, and we are closer to the lower Bollinger Band, which hopefully we're gonna start seeing a bounce. Bitcoin risk is now sitting at 3.5%. We seem to have bottomed between 3 and 4 of November at 101K, and now the risk is starting to move a bit higher as we're seeing these moves in the crypto market, which again is not in worrisome region for me. Actually, if we are in bull market, it's the best time to accumulate historically. If we can check some previous values, we have moved from 109 all the way up to 124 when the risk was at the 30% range. And again, in June, we went from 27.9% risk when the price was 101 all the way up to 118. Therefore, it's a good time to accumulate, but we are in a position where people are in disbelief. So they don't know if the bull market is over. They are a bit cautious. Many of them are in cash positions and they are waiting to see if there's going to be a dip or not. That is why I said that if we manage to hold the 50-week moving average through November and starting to see a move to all-time highs in December, I think that will bring massive inflows to the crypto market, and we can see the long-awaited blow of top. And also your favorite altcoin will move to higher prices, and you can have your altcoin season. But as I said, when Bitcoins allows it, the market is in fear. Of course, we are not in altcoin season. We are in a position where the supply of Bitcoin in profit is in 72.87%. And we are on the short-term bubble risk metric. We are actually below the green line, which usually, if we stay in prolonged period of time there, that means that we have entered a bear market. But when you are in a bull run and you stay close to it for 1 or 2 months maximum, usually it leads to massive moves to the upside. So it's important for you to monitor your risk. As I said, you need to set certain levels which you are willing to exit the market and not continue seeing going down. Because do not forget, if Bitcoin is in a bear market, that means you can see a 50 or 60% drop. So that means you can see a 70k BTC this as we move in 2026. So it's important for you to set the levels which you are willing to change your thesis. For me, I outline it already. I don't think that the top is in. And even if you check, I think 100% of the mainstream indicators are saying that the top is not in. Even if we Google on CoinMarketCap, you will see, I think it has it. Let's see. Yeah, so the crypto market cycle top indicators, which historically flagged the cycle top, they are 30 in total, and none of them triggered. So sometimes it's good to think that what is the probabilities of all 30 of them to not work this cycle? And for me, I think the probability is really low. But on the other hand, I'm willing to change my thesis as certain conditions are met. I hope you liked the video. Please give us a thumbs up and leave a comment, as that helps the algorithm show our content to more people. And hopefully the bull market is on and we're going to move to new all-time highs in the next couple of months. Until next time, bye-bye.